Fantasy Underdogs, breaking down wide receivers ranked 13 to 24. Let's go.
Welcome to the Fantasy Underdogs podcast with your host, Dr. Ike and BJ.
Fantasy Underdogs, we're talking about our wide receiver rankings, numbers 13 through 24. Starting us off, we have Kenny Golladay. This guy, every year we keep saying he's going to bust through. However, this is the third year, and third time's a charm. Same thing goes for wide receivers. That third year is where you get the big bump. I think this is it. He's got the upside of 10-plus touchdowns. He's got the target share going up. It's looking good, Ridge. I think you agree.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I got him ranked at 13. I mean, this is going to be his first full season as Babytron wide receiver 1. He's got 71 targets.
No, none of this baby nonsense. He's going to be full on mega.
Well,
Megatron.
He's not Megatron.
He's in Detroit. He's got the same quarterback. He might as well be the same guy. He wasn't drafted in the first round, but know.
No, I mean, he's really good. I like him. I think he's, like you said, 10-plus touchdowns. I think that's definitely in
That's something Calvin Johnson would do.
Yeah. He had 119 targets, 21% share of the targets. As soon as Golden Tate left, he was just getting peppered all day by Matt Stafford. So I could see the same thing happening this year, and I could definitely see him potentially being, a top 10 guy with the amount of touchdowns he could potentially score in this offense.
I agree. Maybe even top 3. Anyway, that's what everything goes well. Number 14, we have Amari Cooper. I had him ranked much higher than you did, but we have to go over the fact that he was legit. Once he went to Dallas, he was a number 1 wide receiver. But the home road splits, Ridge, kind of disappointing. What do you think about that?
Yeah, really disappointing, actually. He actually, on the road, 5 games, 4.8 receptions for 48 yards and only 10 fantasy points per game.
I think he really needs to step up and go higher than being the number 14 wide receiver as you have him ranked. Gallup needs to take a real step up. We had him. He was rookie last year. This is his sophomore year. He's the guy that needs to take pressure off of him. The offensive lines should hopefully be improved with Travis Frederick. I think the reason why I have him higher is just because he is going to be used the way he always was supposed to be used, and he's going to mesh well with Dak this year.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm not high on Cooper, really. I think he'll be inconsistent all season long, to be honest.
Okay. Now, from Amari Cooper to Cooper Kupp, number 15. He was the Rams' number 1 wide receiver up until he tore that stupid little ACL ligament. I think this year they're all going in the same area. All 3 of the Rams wide receivers, they're going in the 40 to 48 range. It's tough though, because a guy coming off of an ACL tear is scary. Is he going to have the same burst that he did before? It's the same offense with Todd Gurley not necessarily being the same guy he once was, but do you think he can keep up that production that he had?
100%, honestly.
100%.
ACL injuries, guys are coming back on those so fast these days. Before the season, before he got hurt for the end of the season, he actually was on pace for 12 touchdowns. That puts, and I think he was, at that time, I think he was ranked in the top 5 overall receivers. He was really high up there.
He was.
I think he had 9 touchdowns. No, not
6.
6 touchdowns.
6 touchdowns.
6 touchdowns in 8 games.
He was on pace for over 9 touchdowns.
Yeah, 6 touchdowns in 8 games. So, that's pretty impressive. And Jared Goff loved him. McVay used him in all formats. He was constantly the go-to guy, constantly their leading receiver. So, yeah, I mean, I got him ranked 15. I definitely see him. He could easily get into the back end of the 3rd round.
I hear you. Now, moving on from one wide receiver on the Rams to the next, we're going to Robert Woods. Someone say he's the actual number 1 wide receiver. He's been the most productive Rams wide receiver over the past 2 seasons. I think that says a lot for the rapport with him and Jared Goff. I think if he stays healthy, and if everyone stays healthy, I really like his consistent production more than anybody else. Robert Woods is a top guy on that offense, and I think that's something that we use going forward.
Yeah, I like Robert Woods. I think he'll be very consistent. He had 7 targets in 13 out of 16 games last season. And while he'll be extremely consistent for you, I don't see him actually getting over the hump and being that number one receiver. He'll be a great wide receiver 2 because of his consistency. I just don't see him getting to that touchdown level of wide receiver 1 where he'll be extremely productive. I think Cooper Kupp and Brandin Cooks will eat into that, but he'll be very, very good wide receiver 2.
Okay, and for number 17, we're going upside here with AJ Green. He's a name that we all know, we all love, we all respect. However, different injuries have kind of dampened those expectations. I think if he can stay healthy, which is always the big if with him, he's going to give you top 5 numbers. But that's the thing. You have to have that injury risk baked in there. He's going to be the highest talented guy drafted outside of the top 30 in ADP currently. But I think with a good preseason, people are going to start inching him up into the second round there.
Yeah, I mean, 4 words describe AJ Green: high risk, high reward. I mean, the guy could be an absolute monster, as he's proven in the past. He has a good rapport with Andy Dalton, even though I don't think Dalton's elite. There is a new offense. We don't know how it's going to be. Tyler Boyd did burst onto the scene last year and was very, very productive. I don't see him really taking that much away from AJ Green, but I do see him taking some things that might affect him a little bit. I see them maybe focusing more on the running game with Joe Mixon, which would help AJ Green, honestly. But I just don't know if he's got the legs under him anymore. I mean, I understand he's a young guy, but those injuries have just been like constant every year. Are you going to get a full season out of him? That's why he's a little further down on my list. But I do believe, if he does stay healthy, he will be a great reward for you.
Okay, and with that, we're going to have a fantasy darling make it his first time being ranked in the top 20. That's Mr. Tyler Lockett. They've got no Doug Baldwin there anymore. He's got really high efficiency numbers with Russell Wilson. The big question is, are they still going to be running the ball more than they pass the ball? Are they going to focus on Tyler Lockett being that number one guy? Can he handle that kind of workload? And can DK Metcalf surprise us all, despite those horrible combine 3-cone drill numbers, and be an asset to the Seahawks offense?
Well, we spoke about Tyler Lockett on our value segment, and as I believe, I think he's going to be a great value going into the season. I think he's going to be a legit wide receiver 2 for the entire year. I think the consistency factor will improve with the Doug Baldwin retirement, and I do believe his numbers will increase. He has a great rapport with Russell Wilson. They had a perfect passer rating last year, which is pretty incredible. And I do believe the touchdowns are not sustainable, but I think his yards and receptions are going to go up. So even if there's a little decrease in the touchdowns, he will make it up in yards and receptions. And at 18, that might be a little high right now, but I see a lot of upside with this guy, and I think that offense is going to have to rely on somebody.
All right, number 19, we have Julian Edelman, number one guy for Tom Brady over the past several years. There's no more Gronk. He is going to be the focal point of the passing game at least. I think it really depends on how healthy those running backs are, especially Sony Michel. It's really tough to see where he's going to end up, but I think he's guaranteed for 100 receptions, 1,200 yards if he stays healthy. But where's Tom Brady at this point? We're seeing a lot of decline.
Tom Brady's going to look at Julian Edelman every single play like he has for the past, 5 years? I mean, these guys are just like brothers, basically. They know where they're going to be at all times. There's no more Gronkowski. They drafted a N'Keal Harry. He could be good. We don't really know what we got in him. They really have nothing else around them. Yes, they got a decent running game. The offensive line is okay, but they're going to have to rely on Edelman, and Brady relies on Edelman. So I think just consistently on a week-to-week basis, he's going to be a threat to get 8 receptions a game and close to 100 yards, and he's probably going to sprinkle in a bunch of touchdowns. He might not have a boatload. He'll probably have anywhere from like 5 to 7, I would say, because they do like to run the ball a lot in the red zone. But I see that on a week-to-week basis, Julian Edelman is very, very consistent, and he could blow up for you on some weeks. He could easily sneak into the top 12.
He's very good. For number 20, you have Brandin Cooks. Yeah, I just want to interject my rankings. I have number 15. I think you have way too low at number 20. It's kind of a bit ridiculous. You say, we agree he has a very high ceiling. He's possibly the highest ceiling of the 3 wide receivers, but you also say he has the lowest floor. I disagree. A guy that gets 1,000 yards every year, even with having a different quarterback every year, that's a high floor, my friend.
Well, just to interject, that's season long. I'm talking on a week-to-week basis. Brandin Cooks does disappear on a week-to-week basis. I can see Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp being very, very active on a week-to-week basis due to the amount of targets they get and the routes they run. Brandin Cooks, if they're covering the deep pass, he's kind of out of play almost. I mean, he doesn't really run. I mean, he does run some crossing patterns in here and there.
He runs
obviously
all the routes, my friend. The entire tree.
But like I said,
Very good foundation soil.
And Brandin Cooks demands the number one corner, so he's also going to be going up tough competition.
Because he's the best wide receiver.
He might be, but I don't think
he is.
My point being, I like the guys above him better. I think Brandin Cooks can explode on days. He's going to be a good wide receiver.
I think the thing you got to look at, too, is that he had, I want to say, 5 or 6 plays where he was tackled inside the 5-yard line. So that I think that touchdown upside is upwards of double digits for him. Even in this offense, they're not all going to stay healthy. I think this year he's a good bet to at least get you 8-9 touchdowns, which is much more than I think the 5 he had previously. At number 21, we have DJ Moore, number 1 wide receiver for the Panthers. He's the clear-cut guy. He doesn't get as much receptions as Christian McCaffrey, but he does get the deep looks. This is a guy that we need to look at as being a breakout this year. What do you think, Ike?
I mean, I think DJ Moore has a lot of upside. I mean, you got Curtis Samuel over there who's pretty solid, but they're kind of similar wide receivers. They're both small guys. You got Christian McCaffrey, but DJ Moore was relied on heavily throughout the second half of that season, and they drafted him in the first round last year. So, I mean, they're obviously invested in this guy as a number 1. They probably see him as a Steve Smith type. He actually does run the ball sometimes, too, out of the backfield. So, I think he's very multidimensional. I think he can thrive in the system, and I think he can have a lot of catches this season. I think he's going to eat into McCaffrey's catches, not as much obviously, but he'll eat into some of those, and I think he'll be a very, very safe target for Cam Newton.
Okay, and at number 22, we have one of the most polarizing characters in the NFL. That's Mr. Sammy Watkins, who, despite all the foot and leg injuries, he's still being ranked pretty high, and that's only because he's got possibly the best quarterback in the NFL throwing it to him, Mr. Patrick Mahomes. And there's no Tyreek Hill there anymore. So he's the number 1 wide receiver if you're not going to count Travis Kelce in there. He's a guy that I personally have had many issues with. He's shown flashes of being that guy that was drafted before Odell Beckham that year, but he's never fully put it together, other than that 1 second half he had with Tyrod Taylor. Can he do that this year, Ike?
If he stays healthy, yes, 100%. I think if he stays healthy, he could probably be a top 10 wide receiver.
I think so.
I mean, the upside is there. The perfect storm is falling for him.
But do you think where you have him ranked is a sufficient place to put him based on the risk of? Is the upside so high that it's worth just taking that jump?
I'll be honest with you. I think he doesn't get out of the 4th round. So he's definitely a number 2 wide receiver at that point. I think he might, even closer to the season, he might jump into the 3rd round because all the hype train is going to be like, oh, Sammy Watkins, Kansas City offense, got to get a piece.
I want to see just how that preseason shakes out to see how he's used. I mean, no, they don't show you everything in a preseason, but if you see him catching some long streaks down the sidelines from Pat Mahomes like Tyreek Hill was, man, he's just going to skyrocket, and that's going to be tough not to draft.
Yeah, the upside's there. I mean, I'm excited for him. He'll definitely be on my board, that's for sure. So, yeah, I mean, Watkins has potential to be a wide receiver 1. You're getting him possibly in the 4th round. I mean, if that's not a steal, then what is?
In football, that could be an amazing steal.
Yeah.
23, you have Christopher Godwin in that Bruce Arians offense. Super exciting, flashy, I know. But Bruce Arians, I know we liked him with Mike Evans. Can he sustain that with being the number 2 wide receiver? Maybe with Bruce Arians, he's not good at using the tight end, but he's never had a tight end like O.J. Howard, that kind of top-end talent. Does he use him more as the number 2 wide receiver? Do you really think there's enough to go around? That's really the big question here.
Yes, I believe there's plenty to go around. I mean, Deshaun Jackson left, Adam Humphries left. You have O.J. Howard, okay. Chris Godwin's going to be the number 2 over there at this point. You can see, really.
But is he going to still put up numbers even though he doesn't have Admiral Fitzpatrick there anymore?
Yeah, I mean, Jameis Winston's a good quarterback, you would think. I mean, he's not that accurate, but the system alone should influence Jameis to be a better player. And they're going to be throwing the ball downfield. Chris Godwin's going to demand targets because they're going to probably be doubling Mike Evans. So he's going to probably be open. And he was good last year when he played. I mean, when he wasn't fighting for targets with Adam Humphries and Deshaun Jackson, when they were out, he shined. So, I mean, he could be a really good player on an offense that is going to be throwing the ball a whole lot, and a defense that's absolutely terrible.
Okay, and at number 24, we're wrapping this up with Mr. Mike Williams of the, not San Diego, LA Chargers. This is a big question mark. Lots of question marks here, but we're at 24, so you're going to expect that. Phillip Rivers, does he take a step back? Mike Williams, can he take a step forward, even if that pie shrinks possibly? We got Hunter Henry is healthy again. We have all of these weapons together possibly for the first time. They're all in their prime. Can he get the 10 TD threshold that we're hoping for?
The one thing that I always remember about Phillip Rivers is he loves big wide receivers. History tells it. Vince Jackson, he loved Tyrell Williams, all these guys.
Antonio Gates was basically a wide receiver for him, so he loved him.
So, Mike Williams is a big wide receiver, and we proved last year the guy could catch touchdowns, he can make plays, he can make big plays, tough catches. He's a red zone threat. He had 10 touchdowns last year. And
he has the talent to supplant Mr. Keenan.
And Keenan Allen has an injury history. He constantly gets banged up, doesn't play all year.
He could be a monster if he gets hurt and he takes the step up that we want.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Williams could easily move up these rankings and be a top, 15 guy by the end of the season. I definitely think the Chargers offense is going to be good this year. So, having their number 2 wide receiver who led the team in touchdowns last year is probably a good option to have.
Absolutely. And with that, that's our top 24 wide receivers. Please like, subscribe, comment, check out fantasyunderdogs.com, and have a wonderful day. Oh, that was good.